Hello. So today we are going to have a fly in the Black Square Bonanza in Microsoft Flight Simulator, and we are going to specifically look at radio navigation. So you can see the weather today is horrendous, so that's going to play into our hands in a way. We are going to use Little Nav Map, but not to help us navigate. We're going to use it for information. So I've turned off our position on the map. So we will be using the instruments in the aeroplane to find out where we are. And I will deliberately turn the GPS screen over so it doesn't make any sense to us in terms of showing us a visual representation of the route. Okay, so let's go and jump inside the aeroplane and get it fired up. So first things we do in the Black Square Bonanza, we just go and check the fuel there. We're using the left tank, that's absolutely fine. We're only flying about 60 miles, 70 miles. It's just around to the other side of London. So if I just show you that on the map, we're going to take off from Wycombe Air Park. We're going to fly via the Bovingdon VOR, then over to the Brookmans Park VOR, then the Stapleford VOR, or Lambourne, sorry it's called. And then we're going to do a little bit of navigation to get onto the ILS for London City and come into London City. So the weather today is atrocious in the UK, so this is absolutely playing into our hands to do radio navigation. So we will have to do it. Okay, so let's go and turn the batteries on. So you can see the engine monitor is just spooling up over there. We push the mixture forwards to rich. We put the propeller on maximum RPM for startup. We go and turn the beacon light on outside, so if we can see that happening. If we go and have a look, you should see that flashing away, hopefully. Yep, it's flashing. And we start the engine. So to do that in the Black Square, we want to turn the fuel pump to high for a few moments. And then hold the starter on, and we have an engine running. Okay, so we can now go and turn on the alternator to generate power from the engine. We can turn on the master avionics switch. We can turn on the nav lights. We'll do the strobe when we get to the runway. Won't do the pitot heat yet until we get to the runway. We're going to be taking off runway 24, I believe. Let's just double check the METAR information from Wycombe. So wind is 175 degrees, yeah, so we'll be taking off runway 14. So we'll go and move the heading bug to the runway direction before we even taxi out. It's about 245 degrees, I believe, is the actual runway direction at Booker. Okay, so GPS is coming up, but we're going to see what we can do about hiding the map. So we may just move it to the status screen instead of showing us. Obviously we want to be able to manipulate the nav radio frequencies, but that's all we want to be able to do. We don't want to see where we are, because that's cheating for our purposes today. So we're going to do that. Okay, we're going to, if it was going to let us, oh, of course that shows a rose. What could we do instead? We can do that, can't we? We'll leave it on the status screen. There we go. So although it's going to give us a coordinate, that's really not much use for visual comprehension. Okay, let's turn some lights on in the cockpit. It's very gloomy today, isn't it? So we'll go and put the floodlight on, the panel light on, and we'll put the taxi light on as well. We're about to taxi anyway. It's pretty horrible out there, isn't it? So before we even get going then, we're going to move the focus over for the radios to the nav radio. So you do that by pushing the knob here and it flicks the focus over. So immediately after our departure from Wycombe, we are going to fly to the Bovingdon VOR, and the frequency for that is 113.75. So the outer knob down here does the integers, which you can see that changing there, and the inner knob is the decimals, so 11375. If we transfer that to active, You can see it's got BNN. At the moment, the CDI, or course deviation indicator, which is this thing, is operating in GPS mode. We want it to be operating in VOR mode. So we'll change both of them, because we may use VOR2 as well. Oh, sorry, NAV2, I should say. So we're going to be flying to Bovingdon, and we want the course to travel to Bovingdon. We'll have a play with this along the way just to explain it. But we want to follow a 54-degree track or radial into Bovingdon. So we move the yellow arrow here, which is our course, to 54 degrees. So we go the other way. So that would be 40 degrees. Sorry, that would be 50. 54 degrees is going to be about there. This will all make sense once we actually take off. Okay? Right. Let's go and get in the air. So, flaps to takeoff position. Ease the throttle forwards. So we are going to be taking off fairly soon, so we'll go and turn the pitot heat on now. We'll put our strobe lights on now we're near the runway. Put our landing lights on as well. We're going to leave the lights on throughout the whole flight because we're not going very high and it's horrible weather. We want to be seen. So just before we get to the runway, let's go and select our cruising altitude on the altitude pre-selector. We are going to climb to 5,000 feet today. And we'll do that at 1,000 feet a minute. Okay, so if we go to 5,000, I don't think we can arm it actually until we're in the air. No, we can't. So we'll just leave it there for the moment. Right, calibrate the altimeter. You can see the weather radar is actually lighting up with meaningful data today, which is good. It doesn't always do that, so let's turn the range down a bit so we can actually see the sweep of the weather radar, picking up the lovely weather we have going on today. Is this actually on? Yeah, it's now on and not on standby, although we're not going to be using the transponder. We're not talking to air traffic control. So we're nearly ready, aren't we? So distance measuring equipment should light up. We'll switch over to nav1, so it should come alive as soon as we get into the air. Just double checking that 11375 for the Bovingdon VOR station, and that's correct. So off we go. Just center the view up for takeoff so I can see where I'm going on the runway. There's a small amount of crosswind and nothing too serious, so waiting for the indicated airspeed to come up and lift the nose, and we are airborne. Gear up. So we're just being aware of the heading bug there. And we'll keep tracking the runway direction for the moment. So flaps can come up, coming up through 1,500 feet. Just trimming the elevators so I can let go of the aircraft. Although I'm having to hold it, it's fairly turbulent today. So let's go and turn the autopilot on. So autopilot is operating, it's in heading mode. So it's going to turn slightly right where I've deviated a little bit from the track. And now we should be able to arm our altitude and go and set our vertical speed of 1,000 feet a minute. So we're climbing out on the runway direction. So if we look on little nav map, let's go and clear. We want to hide the track as well, don't we? Otherwise we're going to see where we're going. So we are flying out in this direction at the moment. We're going to make a right turn to turn about. So I'm going to move the heading bug to go broadly the same direction as the route we wanted to be travelling to the VOR. So what I've done here is move the heading bug to match the course that we pre-dialed in. So the aeroplane is doing a right turn to come to 54 degrees. Yeah? We can make sense of where we are in a moment. And we're climbing, just coming up through 3,000 feet. Let's have a quick look at the engine gauges, make sure we're not doing any damage. We're going a little bit hard on the throttle. That's not actually, no, that's okay. We're going to pull the RPM back a bit though. We are really redlining the RPM, which is not great. Okay, so the aircraft is now travelling 54 degrees. So take notice of this course. So this is tuned in on nav 1 to 11375. So it's tuned into the Bovingdon VOR. Yeah? So this is telling us here on the distance measuring equipment that we are 13 miles away. But the course deviation indicator here, so this entire instrument is called a horizontal situation indicator. This bar is the CDI, or course deviation indicator. Because it's to the right, that means we are to the left of the line. So we are somewhere over here. Yeah? So we are 12 miles away. So we're probably, we are probably parallel to Wycombe. But we're to the left of the line. Yeah, we're to the left of the line. So if we were to change our course to intercept it, if we were to change, say, 30 degrees or 20 degrees to the right, so the plane is turning across that. So we are now flying somewhere over here towards the line. So when we approach that line, the 54 degree, let's just correct that slightly, the 54 degree line to the VOR, this line will come in. When this is in the middle, we are on top of that 54 degree line. We are now 10 miles away, or just under 10 miles away from Bovingdon. Okay, so we're just waiting patiently for this line to start moving. And it's starting to move. Yeah? The needle is coming in. We're 8 miles away. The needle is coming in, so we're getting closer and closer. Obviously, if we wanted to expedite that, all we need to do is steer at a steeper angle towards the line. So I'll just move the heading bug. Remember, the autopilot is operating in heading mode. We're at 5,000 feet now, by the way, so we're at our cruising altitude for the entire flight. So we're coming in, we're 7 miles from Bovingdon. We're almost on top of the track, so we'll begin turning back towards it. So I'm just moving the heading bug, and this is just a judgment exercise really, to try and get the aeroplane to turn back for the same moment that that you rotate onto the track. So we've gone slightly off to the right, look, only ever so slightly. So you can easily counter that just by going a little bit to the left. Remember, you might have a crosswind. Yeah? So without looking at the map, because obviously little nav map is going to tell us what that crosswind is, we can figure out if we are being blown away from the track. So we just go more than the direction we need to see if we bring this in. And that tells us if we have a crosswind going on. So we're now 4 miles from Bovingdon. The white arrow tells us we are going to the radio beacon. Obviously we can see the descending distance tells us that as well. But the white arrow means the radio kit knows we are going towards, or sorry, the course is pointing towards the VOR. When we fly over the top, the white arrow will flick to the other side, meaning we are going from the beacon on this course. Let's just have a quick look at the map then. So we are probably somewhere here. So 2 miles away. So we're probably about here on the line, travelling into Bovingdon. When we leave Bovingdon, we want to leave on an 85-degree track. Yeah? So once this changes to from, when it flicks to the other side, which should be very, very soon, notice we're deviating. The closer we get, we weren't exactly on the track. So we're losing it to one side. So we're probably a mile or half a mile off to one side of it. So we'll just wait for this to flick over as we go past the VOR. Oh, there it goes. It's going to think about it. We've lost the signal. There it goes. And then this will start climbing again because we're getting further away from it. So we got within 0.8 of a mile of it. Yeah, and now the needle will start coming back in. Because it actually, you know, in terms of, if you think of it like a triangle shape, the triangle is getting narrower and narrower as we get further away. So we want to be flying 85 degrees now though. So we'll change the course to 85 degrees. So we need to change our direction. And to get back onto that 85 degree line, we need to fly an intercept course onto it. Because what we have done, if you look at the map, we have flown over here. Yeah, because we continued on that direction for a while. So we are now to the left of the 85 degree line. Yeah, we're over here somewhere. So we need to fly back across it, which we are doing with the heading bug. So we're flying towards the line. So we're flying 120 degrees, which is going to this direction. Yeah? So we're coming back towards the line. We are now 3.5 miles away. So for a bit of fun along the way, we're now going to tune in the second radio beacon over here at 117.5 for the Brookmans Park VOR. So we'll keep an eye on this. See, we're approaching the line, look. So we want to go and tune the second VOR to 117.5. Make it active, and it's lined up. Or it's come alive. We haven't set the course on it yet though, so I'm just going to correct this while we're here. So making the aeroplane turn towards the course. Look, we're on top of the line now. So we are flying along here. But we're going to tune the second radio now to this one. We want to come in 85 degrees into this one. So what we've called the course on this one is actually the omni-bearing selector on this one. It's just a different kind of way of looking at the instrument. So we want to turn this to 85 degrees on this outer track, which will do the same trick. Look, there it comes. We are on the 85 degree track. Yeah, so it's absolutely smack bang on top of it, and we're going to the beacon. Now, at the moment, the distance measuring equipment is measuring nav1 because we've turned this little knob at the bottom. If we turn this to nav2, it tells us we are 8 miles from this beacon, or nav2, or yeah, the frequency tuned in on that nav radio 2. So you can alternate this. The real reason, if you've got 2 radio kits on your aeroplane, you can obviously triangulate. So without having a working map, you can figure out exactly where you are by taking readings from 2 different beacons and drawing on the line with a bit of paper, you know, with a paper and a pencil. So we can figure this out. Look, if we say on distance measuring, we're on the line, we're 10 miles from this beacon. So if we measure 10 miles, we are exactly there at the moment. So we could put a marker on the map, which you can do with Little Nav Map. We'll just give it any old name. That's exactly where we are right now, or we were when we measured the distance. We're now another mile further on. Yeah? So if we switch this over on the distance measuring, so the actual direction we need to go is about 80 degrees. So let's go and switch this one over to the same frequency, so 117.5. So we want to go 11750. Switch it over. And then if we put this onto nav 1, so this is now reflecting that course, so we're slightly off to the right. We're 4 miles away, just under. So we're just turning the aeroplane. Now, obviously the closer you get, the more violently the needle's going to move. The further away you get, the slower the needle will move, because you're going to have to travel a lot further to make a difference. So we're just coming back on, and we're now on that 85-degree line again, where we drift. The wind had just blown us slightly off of it. 2 miles away. One and a half miles away, so we're about to fly straight over the top of this VOR beacon. So we want to leave here on 123 degrees. Yeah, so we're within a mile. So I'm going to change this now to 123 degrees. So we want to go this way, 123 degrees. Yeah, we've got no signal at the moment, and it's just come back on. So when you're on top of a VOR, you won't get a signal. So there's our 123 degrees or thereabouts. So at the moment we are slightly off to the left of this line because we flew out, before we turned. So again, all we need to do is cross across that line. We're now heading for the 123 degree line down to the Lambourne VOR. So again, we can play the same game of pre-tuning nav 2 over to 115.6. So let's just get this lined up. So 115.6 on nav 2. So we can play games with seeing that we're on the trek. 115.60. There we go. Tuned it in. Flick it over. And obviously we haven't changed the Omni bearing selector yet. So we want to be doing the 123 degree. So as soon as we get this to 123 degrees, it lines up. Well, obviously it does, because we're flying between the two VORs. But this gives you another indication. If you want to know the direction to a VOR, all you do is spin the Omni bearing selector, or spin the heading until the CDI, or course deviation indicator needle, lines up in the middle. When it's in the middle, it's telling us it's 123 degrees to the beacon. If we span it around completely the opposite direction, this means it's 303 degrees from the beacon. Obviously we can see the other side, so we know it's 123 to the beacon. So if we spin this all the way around, it goes back to 123 degrees to the beacon. Notice we're slightly off to the left, so we'll just change our course ever so gently. So we're 6.5 miles from that one, 5 miles to the next one. So we're going to tune nav 1 to be the same as this now. So we want 115.6 on our active frequency. So 115.60. Change that to active. So this is now reflecting the next VOR. So we're off to the left. So we are going to navigate quite viciously back towards it. So we're just going to intercept. That was 123 degrees, wasn't it, we wanted? There we go. So we're just pulling it back in. 3 miles away, coming back towards the line. So we want to be leaving here on 145 degrees. Now this is where we start to get interesting. So if we measure this, we want to fly about 6 miles from it. Yeah. So we're just coming down to 2 miles to go until we get there. Almost on top of it. And the direction we want to leave on is 145 degrees. Yeah. So we've got 1.5 miles to go. We're almost on top of it. So this will disable in a moment. It'll just go dead. The arrow will vanish as we fly over the top. So we're losing the signal off to one side. We're to the right of the VOR. So typically within about half a mile we'll lose the signal. There it goes. We've lost the signal. And now it will come back on. We're the other side of it now. Okay, so we wanted 145 degrees, didn't we? So we want to leave on a course of 145. Yeah? And we want to get to 6 miles away from the beacon. Because notice we're not flying towards a beacon now. So we need to, again, we're off to the left of the line because we've overshot. We're over here somewhere. So we're just turning across the line and we're coming back towards it. We're also going to start descending. We want to be about, yeah, 3,000 feet should be fine actually. No, we'll go for 2,000. It's the minimum of what we can do. And we're going to come down at 1,000 feet a minute. So we are descending now. We'll do it a bit faster than that actually. It's coming off the throttle while we're descending. We don't need to be going too fast. Okay, so we're looking for 6 miles on here, yeah? When we get to 6 miles, we're going to fly 190 degrees for a few miles, but we're going to tune the nav radio over. So we'll be kind of in no man's land for a few moments. But we're going to change the nav radio over to the ILS frequency. So we're just coming down. So that's 5 miles away now. So we get ready to go to heading mode when we get to 6 miles away. And we go for 190 degrees. So we're just coming up to it. We're going to go to heading mode. Well, we're already on heading mode. So there's 6 miles, and we're going to go for 190 degrees. We're also going to slow down. So we're just coming to 2,000 feet, so the plane is levelling out. So now we're going along here now. We're going to tune the ILS in 111.15. So 111.15. Switch that to active. Now the course of the runway is 272 degrees. So we're going to turn this around to the direction of the runway relative to us. So that's 272. Okay, so we can actually figure this out by measuring this. If we go measure distance, when we get to about 9 miles away, we should, so it should turn in any moment. So I'm going to start turning us. Here it comes. I'm just turning us onto the route. So we are now on the ILS. So we've got a glide slope all of a sudden. Yeah? Now if we look up, there's the runway directly in front of us. Yeah, it's London City is right there in the rain. So at this point we're going to switch off the autopilot and hand fly it. Because where would be the fun otherwise? So we've got the radio beacon here to guide us in. We've actually got clear weather, look, which is quite nice. So we're off to the right, you can see that here. So if we backtrack across, you'll see the needle come in for the ILS. When we get onto the glide slope, which I think is 5.5 degrees for London City, you'll see the glide slope start coming down. So we're on the centre line now. Yeah, because the CDI is in the middle. The glide slope still hasn't come in, look, and it looks higher than normal, and that's because it is a steeper approach into London City. Here comes the glide slope. So gear down, and we begin descending. So we're tracking the glide slope now as well as the direction. Obviously we've got visibility of the runway, which you might not always have in this sort of weather. We've been very, very lucky. So let's get flaps out as well before we get too fast to drop them. Flaps obviously increase the drag on the aircraft, so you need to be mindful of that. So we're not going for full flaps. We're slightly below the glide slope, so we're just correcting for that. So we don't actually have, the point of this is we don't have to see the runway until we get to a decision altitude. We could fly down just following the instruments down. Obviously you just look at the attitude indicator and go by this. You know this is the direction of the runway. We're going below the glide slope, so we're just correcting for that. We're slowing down as we go. With full flaps I'm actually having to increase throttle to maintain speed. So the idea is with a GA aeroplane you're going to maintain pitch basically and use the throttle as much as the pitch. You get varying schools of pilotage, if you want to call it that, technique for controlling descent rate. Some people will absolutely demand you use the throttle to control descent rate. So we're now visual anyway, so we don't have to continue on. So we just bring the aeroplane in gently and we're down. So flaps can come up and we'll just roll. We can come off at the first exit because a GA plane stops very quickly and somebody's here to watch us. And we'll roll in and find somewhere to park. So we'll just pull off to the left here. So hopefully that was instructional and helpful to you. So that was just using basic radio navigation techniques to fly radials from and to VORs, and then to use heading mode to get onto the ILS, you know, with a picture in your head of where we were. So I'm going to cut the throttle there, or sorry, pull the mixture, which will pull the throttle, and then we can go and turn things off. So all the lights can come off. The master avionics can come off now, the magnetos can come off, the alternator off, the battery off, and we're pretty much there. So if we go and look outside, you can see obviously London City is a wonderful airport to fly into. It's rather challenging with bigger planes because of the steep descent into the airfield. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Hopefully that's kind of shown you some good examples of flying from and to VORs and using the navigation kit to do it. So I'll see you again soon.